Welcome to SVG-TV News for Friday, February 20th, 2015. I am Jennifer Richardson with the details. Come next month, a new batch of students will be employed under the Government Support for Education and the Training Program. This was announced yesterday by Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves during his Ask the Prime Minister radio program. According to the Prime Minister, the one-year tenure for the first set of students employed under the program will come to an end next month, and they have already begun the process to take on more students who are university and college graduates.
One time we should have 40 and 77, that's 117, plus the existing 117, because you may recall that we had put in the budget an additional $250,000, so it's 1.75, financed by Petro-Caribbean. So those who are listening to me, you hear me that the people, the public servants are finalizing the information, the selection, yes, and then they'll put everything in place.
Regarding the Life to Live program, PM Gonsalves says that will be rolled out soon, as the Ministry of Social Development is in the process of collecting the names of those who will be eligible to benefit from it.
Yes. But I want to say this, the Ministry of Social Development, they collected names, but they didn't collect all the names of persons. And I don't know even at this stage that they have all, but certainly they have a better list. Because when I saw, for instance, the list from North Central Windward, and I saw they have about 8 people, I know straight off that you had more than those. So I told them to go back in the communities and to talk to people in the communities, people in particular villages, to find out. In fact, 1 or 2 of those whom they had down had already deceased. So you had to get other people to be involved with them, people in the communities to be involved with them. And then, of course, they will make, between the Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Housing, they will make the selections of those they start with and how they're going to progress. And there's a work plan and all the rest of it.
Meanwhile, in light of some criticism, Prime Minister Dr. Rav Gonsalves says he is satisfied that the recent reduction in the price for gasoline, diesel and LPG cooking gas is fair for everyone.
It is very interesting to note that SAL, they don't import LPG, but they think that the retail price should be $18 and something, so that the former $9 and something cents would be remaining as the margin for the wholesalers and for those who are distributing. Whereas on the other hand, Rubis, which imports, thinks that the wholesale price shouldn't be $21.65 as we have it, but $28. Which means that if they get $28, they would say that the retail price should be $37, almost $38. Well, that's not our view on the matter. Our view is as we put it in the law. Of course, since Rubis was not forthcoming before with information, but once we put the price control price, the new price, in on Monday, the 16th. Rubis is now providing information, though there are aspects of the build-out which we don't think they're justified in having in order to arrive at a price as you get to the wholesale price.
The Prime Minister says he understands some retailers and even the distributors are unwilling to sell the LPG cooking gas at the reduced rate. Out of concern, they will not get the margin they are used to. He says this is not the way to go, as they're still getting a good margin.
I know a distributor, for instance, in North Leeward. He's finished his supply and he went to a particular, one of the two, I'm not calling the name, one of the two wholesalers which I mentioned, Sal and St. Vincent Motors. He went to them and they said to him on Tuesday, that they're not selling any gas to them, 20 pound. Wednesday the same thing, and he said to do the same thing. Well, I made it plain that our resolve is not going to be broken on this matter. And without telling you all the phone calls which I have made to the various headquarters outside of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I understand that we are going to see the commencing the sale again of the 20 pound cylinders. Well, I'll see what tomorrow brings. So the public may ask, well, what are you doing? Well, in the meanwhile, there's Petrocarib. We have some gas, but we don't have enough. So we have been in touch with Venezuela. Next week. One ISO tank is coming. And in early March, we are asking for another 4 ISO tanks. We want the private sector to remain. We want Rubis to be there in the business. We want Shell to be in the business. But everybody has to be reasonable. And if they're not reasonable, we have to take whatever steps necessary in order for the people to be able to get their cooking gas.
As for the request by Rubis, the importer of LPG cooking gas, for government to reconsider the new regulated rates, PM Gonsalves says the company is asking for an unreasonable margin.
I want you to have a reasonable margin for what you are doing, and I want the people who are selling in the villages and in the towns, I want you also to have a reasonable margin. But there are other people who will sell it if those who are selling it at the moment don't want to sell it. This is a free and democratic country. Other people may go forward to say, okay, if John Brown doesn't want to sell, Mary Jones may say, well, I will sell. If John Brown don't want to sell it with a margin of $3, Mary Jones may say, I will sell it for a margin of $2. In my shop in Chateaubriand, and bearing in mind, where you go away from Kingston and the immediate environs, there's an additional sum which is put on for the transportation. That's why you have Area 1, Area 2, Area 3, and Area 4. Area 4 being down in the southern Grenadines. Because obviously you have to put it on the boat to carry it down there. and that costs money. So the consumer pays the price of the transportation. Yes. In those outer areas. If you go to Sandy Bay or you go to North Leeward, there's additional money on it than if you live in Kingstown. Yes. Because that's the transportational charge, additional.
Over the next 3 months, farmers across SVG will be given the opportunity to enhance their farming techniques when dealing with cattle and goats. This will be done through an artificial insemination and breeding program, which is a collaborative effort of the Ministry of Agriculture and the Cuban Embassy. A reproduction specialist from Cuba is expected to arrive here today to be part of the program. While here, he will carry out a general assessment on livestock production in SVG, train technical staff, work along with ministry officials at various government stations, and provide artificial insemination to commercial farmers. The lead coordinator of the Artificial Insemination and Breeding Program, Dr. Colleen Phillips, says a series of farmers' consultation meetings will be held in community centers and learning resource centers throughout the country. These meetings will discuss issues of livestock development as the ministry embarks upon initiating artificial insemination, AI, in small and large ruminants. The first meeting will be held on Monday at the Fitzhughes Learning Resource Center at 4 p.m. Tomorrow, the Cuban reproduction specialist will meet with officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, including Minister Saboto Caesar and the Cuban ambassador, His Excellency Luis Castelo Campos, at the Cuban Embassy. The Women in Agriculture Langley Park Cooperative WALCO is the beneficiary group of a $25,000 donation from the UNESCO Participation Program. Speaking at the launch of a project to be undertaken by the group, Minister of Agriculture Sabota Caesar says his ministry continues to promote the critical importance and need for cooperatives in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Agriculture Minister further states that the strength of WALCO continues to develop, and in his estimation, WALCO is one of the largest groupings of women in the OECS working together for the betterment of agriculture.
Today we are on the receiving end as an organization of the sum of $24,631 US from the UNESCO organization. These monies, I was advised, will be used to assist in irrigation and also for the mechanization of several farms. Of course, the intention is to lift production and improve productivity.
Caesar also stated that last weekend the police division in the Langley Park area increased its surveillance to address the serious problem of predial larceny.
He visited the market in Georgetown, and there was a significant presence there of the rural constables and officers, and the stop and searches will continue during the course of this year because we have to put a handle on this problem. I know that many of our farmers in the organization continue to complain of this vexing problem that we continue to face as farmers. I want to encourage the organization to continue to work with the Ministry of Agriculture and particularly with CD to ensure that we submit requests on a timely basis to international donors and different organizations that do funding so that we can improve and increase the capital base of the organization.
The project to be undertaken by WALCO seeks to enhance the capacity of rural women producers to increase their income and quality of life by upgrading their fruit and vegetable value chains. It will be carried out over a one-year period and will seek to improve the social, economic and physical well-being of 20 female farmers, their families and by extension the Vincentian populace. Meanwhile, Minister Caesar says 2015 has been designated by the Ministry of Agriculture as the year of the harvest. He said such declaration comes about as 2015 marks 5 years since the sector was severely battered by Hurricane Thomas in October of 2010.
And I am seeing from the statistics that we have started to harvest a lot of the produce that we would have replanted in the aftermath of Hurricane Thomas. I could remember when we distributed 10,000 plants from the stations 5 years ago, wax apples, mangoes, roses, and we are actually reaping a lot of these fruits. And we are seeing, for example, in the banana industry, whilst in the period 2011 and 2012 production were at all-time lows. Last year at this time we were doing 4 or 5 pallets. I am advised that last week we did 40 pallets of bananas. So I just want to note so that we could understand why we have designated this year the year of the harvest in the agricultural sector.
Under the sub-theme, Make Your Choice, Internet or Intellect, the St. Joseph's Convent Kingston Young Leaders launched their program for 2015 earlier today. Principal of the school, Kalma Balcom, reflected on her time as a student when there was no internet. She reminded her students that while technology is a tool for improvement, it could also cause harm. She advised them to choose carefully how they use social media, which can permanently ruin their lives.
You are now exposed to a world of technology. How you use it and how you adjust to its effects are of paramount importance. Technology can impact our lives positively and negatively. Hence the need for responsible actions when navigating technology. How many of you have posted photos online that are unbecoming of decent young women? How many of you use obscene language when communicating on Facebook? How many of you have been cyberbullied or are yourselves cyberbullies? The luxury of technology to instantly communicate carries with it a big responsibility.
In a tag team style address, President Alize George and Vice President Antonelia Lolly warned that many of the social media wars could get physical.
The issue we have realized is more than what the users do not know, but what is considered appropriate technology usage. The basis then of digital citizenship is knowing how to act online. I read an article last weekend in which they were discussing a case that involved a 19-year-old who was sentenced for throwing hot oil on another young lady. I opened the article because I was curious to find out why one human would want to do something so dreadful to another. The gist of the article was that about 2 years ago, two young ladies, then only 17 years old, teenagers much like ourselves, had an online dispute via Twitter. This dispute led to an actual face-to-face meeting, at which point one party threw the hot oil on other.
Here is an excerpt from a presentation done by the St. Joseph's Convent Young Leaders at today's launch.
A young leader put this together and start getting serious. I'm like, hey, take time ago, nothing now running from the world, you know. Yeah, that's all that I have to say. It's just you right now to live up to it. Although we may seem young, there's no need to lie down. Just think about yourself for one.
And featured speaker at the St. Joseph's Convent Kingston Young Leaders Launch, Camilla Gonsalves, said in today's world, people are always plugged in, and the pressure to be trendy and admired can unfortunately cause persons to do shocking things.
How much of what we have to say is reposted or retweeted or shared? These are now how people measure popularity. And it creates its own pressure to do things that are more and more outrageous so that you can stand out, so that your picture or your comment can be shared more or liked more.
Minibus operators in the Bel Air area returned to the roads this morning to provide their service after yesterday's strike action. Over the last few weeks, the bus operators have been asking for better road conditions. Commenting on the strike action on his Ask the Prime Minister radio program, PM Gonsalves says while he has nothing against persons who want to exercise their democratic right to protest, they must do so in a reasonable manner.
I just want to say this government is always responsive and very responsible. And we have been good to the minibus operators in many respects. And I'm quite sure that they appreciate that and the roads which we have been doing. You know, all the money which is given, which is collected from driver's licenses and motor vehicle licenses, all that money goes to road repairs. In fact, more than that goes to road repairs. This year we expect to collect $10.5 million from driver's licenses and $2.5 million from our motor vehicle licenses and $2.5 million from driver's licenses, which makes it $13 million. But we give back the $13.5 million. That is in addition to the $58 million which we are doing on roads otherwise.